Hello, this is Katie Senegalia, and my presentation is on the sit to stand movement or rising from a chair. Why should we care about the ability to rise from a chair? Standing up from a chair is fundamental to functioning independently. It prepares us for mobility and is a precursor to walking. The loss of this ability leads to a reliance on others to meet our needs. Even though practiced regularly, the ability to perform the sit-to-stand movement often declines with age. The purpose of this biomechanical analysis is to review proper sit-to-stand technique, describe common errors, and then suggest some corrections and accommodations which may help people to function independently for a longer period of time. The basic goal in the sit-to-stand movement is to move one's center of mass from a wide stable base of support to a less stable base of support over extended legs. Initially, the person has 3 points of support, the buttocks and thighs resting on the seat and 2 feet on the ground. As they stand up, they must stabilize over 2 feet using the postural muscles or prepare their bodies for movement such as walking. There are 4 phases to the sit-to-stand movement. The first phase is flexion momentum. So, in the beginning, the person is seated with a static, stable posture. Their base of support is wide and includes their buttocks, thighs, and feet. The person may rise from the back of their chair, or better, scoot forward before the rising motion is initiated. Foot placement may be staggered, with a back leg being a dominant leg and a forward leg being one that was being protected, or they may have their feet parallel and symmetrical at initiation. Ideally, they should scoot forward so the distal 1/3 of their thighs is off the seat before beginning to rise. At the initiation of the rise, the trunk and hips flex forward, generating momentum for seat liftoff. Ideally, liftoff takes place in the sagittal plane, but some people will shift their weight to one side to favor a weak or painful leg or hip or foot, and as they shift sideways, you'll see a lateral transfer in the frontal plane. The second phase is momentum transfer, and it's B on this picture here. The buttocks lift off the chair. Momentum generated through forward flexion moves the center of mass horizontally first and then transfers vertically and up. Maximum hip flexion, trunk flexion, neck extension, and ankle dorsiflexion are achieved, generally in that order, just as the body becomes fully weight-bearing, but prior to extension. Phase 3, C here, is extension. After maximum ankle dorsiflexion, the body begins to extend. Stage 4, or phase 4, is stabilization. Once the hips have reached 0 degrees of extension, the center of mass has been brought over the feet and a new but less stable base of support is established. The most effective technique for the sit-to-stand movement depends on both intrinsic and extrinsic factors. Intrinsic factors could include things like a person's body mass and how it affects their center of gravity, their limb length, and joint health. Joint health can be influenced by the available ranges of motion in the joints, strength of muscles and integrity of tendons and ligaments surrounding the joints, and maybe prior surgeries such as a total hip or knee replacement. Extrinsic factors pertain to the person, the chair, and the environment, or whether a load is carried. Have you ever gotten up from a chair in a very tight A-line skirt, a mini skirt, or high heels? That'll affect how the movement is done. Chair The difference, have you ever noticed the difference between getting up holding a rambunctious 2-year-old versus a sleeping baby? That load carrying will change how the movement is done. What about the difference between rocking chairs and beanbag chairs? The slant is different. One sucks you in while the other pushes you out. The ubiquity in the past of old people and rocking chairs makes me think it was a prototype for today's motorized stand-up chairs, which rise and tilt the seat to stand people up. Chairs generally affect the sit-to-stand motion by the slant of the seat, the availability of armrests, and seat height. The presence of a backrest does not affect the motion because the person scoots forward on the seat to begin the motion anyways. Joint range of motion at the knees and ankles is a major determinant of how the sit-to-stand movement is performed. If knee flexion or ankle dorsiflexion are stiff, then the person cannot place their feet behind their knees to begin the movement. We will watch the consequences of this deficit in this video. Davis here is standing up and sitting down from a chair with his feet under his knees closer to the chair, and then he'll switch his legs out and bring them more forward to mimic somebody who's maybe had a total knee replacement and not regained adequate flexion or dorsiflexion in their legs. And you see how the momentum was different there. I had a gentleman in my practice a week ago who does have a total knee replacement and does not get his feet under his knees. He generated so much momentum going forward that he stood up and immediately sat back down in the chair because he could not stabilize himself. He lost his balance, sat back down, the chair tipped backwards onto the back 2 legs, and he almost fell over backwards. So I will be adjusting his seating situation because I was afraid I was almost going to have to call the fire department to get him back up off the floor. Seat height is a major extrinsic determinant in the sit-to-stand movement, and a higher seat could have helped my gentleman to keep from falling over backwards in that chair. In young people, seat height can range from 65% to 115% the length of their lower leg. Older folks need a seat closer to 120% the length of their lower leg, and this gal is obviously in a seat that's a little bit too high. Now, this is Linda, and she has had a total knee replacement and a total hip replacement on the right leg. She's also lost her anterior tibialis. It tore off in a boating accident and then was never reattached, then got reabsorbed, so it cannot be reattached. She also has spondylolisthesis on the right side. She has lupus, and then she had a major stroke, which affected her whole left side, so she really wobbles on her left side. Both sides, actually, but the left side I think is a little bit worse. After her stroke, she was told she would never walk again. So here we are getting up and down from a chair and defying her prognosis. She is walking. It's not beautiful, but she can do it, and we're happy. So let's play this video and see how she does. She puts her hands on her knees because we don't have armrests, and by putting her hands on her knees, she decreases the moment arm at the knees and hips. It gives her some support. Now here's a sagittal view of the same. She's really concerned about stability. You could see she kind of blows out her mouth here. This is hard for her, but she does it. Now we tried making some corrections for Linda to see if we could help her out and make the movement a little bit easier. We've done a number of things. First, I added a folded mat to increase the seat height on this chair and make the seat higher. In this first video, you'll see she has her feet still placed fairly far away from the chair, forward in relation to the legs of the chair, and this causes her to need a little bit more momentum to get up. The seat height does help though. There she wobbled because she had too much momentum. Now we'll go to the second video. Here we've put her right leg back so that it could be the dominant leg and protect her left leg, the leg that she had the stroke on. To me, this looks pretty good. She did not like it. She felt a lot of stress in that right leg. I thought it looked okay, but she didn't like it. So then we tried doing the left leg back and the right leg forward to see if that would be any better. So the left leg's the leg with the stroke, the right leg is the leg with the hip replacement, knee replacement, and it was a wash. She did not like either of those combinations. So we went back to feet parallel, and here you'll see we did get her legs closer to the chair. And I also cued her now to start using her core and a giant kegel to help her get lift inside to bring her up. So let's play the video and see how she does. Feet are closer to the chair now. Less momentum. Easier to stabilize at the top of the movement. Much easier. She doesn't punch backwards into her knees quite as much with that rocking motion trying to stabilize at the end. So her feet are closer and she's using her core. Now let's look at it from the front. Those knees are still wobbly. We're still working on that. She does punch into this left knee. Let's see if we see it again or not. This takes a lot of thinking on her part. All that was a wobble in that knee, and she punches into the back of it. Then I cue her to try to keep her knee soft at the top of the movement, so there's not as much punch backwards. So that's Linda getting up and down from a chair. I think she did great. The whole point of getting up from a chair is to get up from the chair and avoid that chair as much as possible. I thought this was kind of humorous. Here we are becoming Homo erectus, Homo sapien, and then going back to Homo, I don't know what, Homo sad something. And this is the end of my analysis. I'll leave you with this music video, which I thought had a great message. Get off your seat, get on your feet, get your hands in the air, and basically move. My reference page is at the end.